Signed a new law called the Second Amendment Preservation Act into law Saturday afternoon.
Missouri Supreme Court heard arguments today on the Second Amendment Preservation Act, which is a new law that prevents Missouri law enforcement
are ones where, in fact, it's most likely that they should be bringing the highest and mandatory minimum.
But many of you guys might believe. I don't believe that only Democrats pass bad legislation. We've messed up some things ourselves.
Federal Judge Brian Wyme says that Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act violates the Supremacy Clause.
Supreme Court denies stay. Let's dive into the Supreme Court's recent move that's got folks talking all over. It's a wild ride, so buckle up, because this story's got more twists than a pretzel. You've got Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act, a law that made its grand entrance in 2021. It's like Missouri's way of flexing its muscles, saying, we know our Second Amendment rights, and we're not going to let any federal laws mess with them. This law slapped a big "Keep Out" sign on Missouri's door, telling federal agents not to enforce laws that, in its opinion, trampled on the Second Amendment. Now, the U.S. government wasn't going to let that slide. They marched into court, guns blazing, figuratively of course, and argued that Missouri had overstepped its boundaries. They claimed the law was unconstitutional, and to add a little extra spice to the legal stew, they pointed to a sneaky language twist in the law that, they said, torpedoed the whole thing. The plot thickened when the district court jumped into the fray, looked at the U.S. government and said, you know what, you got a point. They slammed down an injunction, a legal red light that yelled, hold your horses, Missouri. No enforcing this law unless we sort this mess out.
today on the Second Amendment Preservation Act, which is a new law that prevents Missouri law enforcement.
Missouri Supreme Court heard both sides of the argument for the Second Amendment Preservation Act. On one side,
predisposed to put criminals in jail, and finally, liberal district attorneys.
There is certainly one of them. President Biden's self-inflicted border crisis continues to wreak havoc across the country.
This case because this law has posed substantial threats to public safety. Because of HB 85, it has become hard.
Just dealing with all these threshold issues, they're asking things that are extraordinary departures from this court's jurisprudence again and again and again.
And now, in a dramatic twist, enter the Supreme Court. Missouri wanted a hall pass, a stay to keep their law running while the legal showdown continued. And what did the Supreme Court say? They said, sorry, not today, folks. In an 8-1 decision, they shot down Missouri's request for a stay. Only Justice Thomas had a different tune, saying, give him the hall pass, but he was the lone voice in the wilderness. What's the bottom line? It means Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act is stuck in legal limbo. It's like a TV series on hiatus while they figure out the next season's script. The law can't be enforced while the legal battles keep on brewing. But hold on to your hat, because this ain't the end of the story. Missouri's not giving up. They're racing towards an expedited review in the 8th Circuit like it's the final lap of the Indy 500. This legal showdown is far from a done deal, and the outcome could be a game changer for how states handle their Second Amendment rights. Overview of Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act. The Missouri Second Amendment Preservation Act, which made its debut in 2021, has stirred quite the controversy. This legislation is more than just words on paper. It's a clear declaration of Missouri's unwavering stance on Second Amendment rights. Let's break it down. Missouri's interpretation of the Second Amendment is rock solid. The state is all about robust protection of the right to bear arms. It's like Missouri is the bouncer at the constitutional nightclub, ensuring that this essential right is safeguarded with the utmost seriousness. But the Missouri Second Amendment Preservation Act doesn't stop at interpretation. It's a law with teeth, designed to back up those words with actions. Specifically, the law sends a resounding message to state agencies and officers. Hands off when it comes to helping federal agents enforce laws that we believe infringe on the Second Amendment. In other words, when the federal government wants to enforce laws that, in Missouri's view, don't play nice with the Second Amendment, the state of Missouri won't be lending a helping hand. It's like a staunch commitment to non-cooperation. This law bars state agencies and officers from getting involved in situations where they'd be supporting the enforcement of those federal laws. In practical terms, this means that Missouri wants to maintain its sovereignty when it comes to the Second Amendment. The state is making a stand, declaring that it won't play ball with the federal government on certain gun-related matters. It's a unique approach that raises questions about the balance of power between the federal government and individual states. But here's where it gets interesting. The Missouri Second Amendment Preservation Act isn't just about enforcement, it's about protection for the state itself. If a federal law enforcement agent tries to operate in Missouri in a way that the state deems as a violation of the Second Amendment, they won't find any state resources or assistance coming their way. It's like Missouri is a no-fly zone for federal agents looking to enforce laws that don't align with the state's interpretation of the Second Amendment. In essence, this law creates a shield around the state of Missouri, safeguarding it from any entanglements with federal laws that it views as infringing on Second Amendment rights. It's a move that has sparked debate about states' rights and their ability to chart their own course when it comes to constitutional interpretation. So, there you have it, the Missouri Second Amendment Preservation Act, a bold statement by the Show Me state about how it interprets and defends the Second Amendment. It's a unique piece of legislation that's garnered both support and scrutiny, and its impact on the ongoing debate over the balance of power between the states and the federal government is yet to be fully understood. The U.S. government's challenge to the Missouri law. When the U.S. government squared off against Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act, it was like a heavyweight bout in the legal arena. The feds made a bold move, slapping a lawsuit on the Show Me state and claiming, "Hold on, Missouri, you're reading the Second Amendment all wrong." Their primary bone of contention was that Missouri's interpretation of the Second Amendment was way off the mark. It's a bit like telling your friend that their GPS is leading them into uncharted territory and you're worried they're going to get lost. But it wasn't just a friendly disagreement. The U.S. government argued that Missouri's law was trampling on the Constitution. It was as if they saw the Missouri law as a bull wreaking havoc in a china shop, causing constitutional chaos. They contended that the law was a step too far, an overreach. It's like telling a kid who's reaching for the cookie jar that they're taking too many cookies at once. At the core of their argument was a challenge to Missouri's authority in setting its own interpretation of the Second Amendment. They believed that this was Uncle Sam's turf, not a state's playground. It's akin to a parent telling a teenager, "I'm the boss here," and taking away the car keys. In this case, the federal government wanted to rein in Missouri's authority in defining the scope of the Second Amendment. This legal showdown opens up a Pandora's box of questions about states' rights and the extent of federal government authority. It's a classic duel between federal power and state autonomy, and the outcome has the potential to reshape the balance of state and federal authority in interpreting and safeguarding constitutional rights. In a nutshell, this is the U.S. government's challenge to Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act. It's a legal heavyweight clash with far-reaching implications, and the final verdict could reshape the terrain of state and federal authority in interpreting and protecting constitutional rights. District Court's decision to strike down the Missouri law. When the District Court stepped into the ring, it delivered a knockout punch to Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act. The courtroom drama was intense, and the judge didn't pull any punches. The District Court's ruling was like a thunderclap, and it wasn't a friendly pat on the back to Missouri's law. Instead, it was a firm, "This isn't going to fly." The court declared the law null and void, making it as effective as a screen door on a submarine. But it didn't stop there. The District Court dropped an injunction like a legal hammer. An injunction is like a big red stop sign in the world of law. It told the state of Missouri, "Hold on, folks, you're not enforcing any provisions of this law unless we sort this mess out." In plain English, the law was put on ice. It was like a TV series put on hiatus, and you're left hanging with a cliffhanger. The state couldn't carry out any of the law's provisions, and it left Missouri in a legal limbo.
Federal Judge Brian Wyme says that Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act violates the Supremacy Clause.
Community, local, state, or federal, that I talked to that said that this was the type of law.
Then signed a new law called the Second Amendment Preservation Act into law Saturday afternoon.
Homicides, this is the sort of thing that needs to basically be buried in part of the ash heap of history.
Other accessory that goes with the firearm, and for the government to tell us that we can't have this brace.
This legal move had far-reaching implications. It meant that while the legal battle raged on, Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act was effectively shelved. No enforcement, no action, no dice. It's important to remember that this was a significant blow to the law, but it wasn't the end of the story. Legal battles have a way of going back and forth, and this was just one round in a much larger fight. The final outcome was still very much up in the air. So, the district court's decision was a game changer, effectively stopping Missouri's law in its tracks with an injunction. It was a legal twist that had profound consequences, and it left Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act in a state of suspended animation. But in the world of law, the story is far from over, and there are more chapters to be written in this legal saga. Similarities between Missouri's law and Texas SB 8. Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act and Texas SB 8, despite being about different constitutional rights, have a striking similarity that's been raising eyebrows and sparking debates. It's a bit like discovering that two seemingly unrelated movies share the same plot twist. Here's the scoop. Both of these laws use a rather unique enforcement mechanism. They put the power of enforcement into the hands of private citizens. It's like saying, hey folks, if you see someone breaking the law, you have the green light to take matters into your own hands and sue them. This means that if you're a private citizen who believes that someone has violated either of these laws, you can waltz into the legal arena and file a lawsuit. It's like giving everyday folks the keys to the courthouse and saying, have at it. Now, this might sound like a novel idea, but it comes with its own set of challenges. When the state isn't the one enforcing the law, it becomes a bit like a game of legal whack-a-mole. If you succeed in suing one person for violating the law, there's nothing stopping someone else from taking their place and being slapped with a lawsuit too. It's like trying to stop leaks in a dam. You fix one and another one springs up. The catch is that opponents of these laws can't easily challenge the state's enforcement authority. Why? Because the state isn't technically doing the enforcing. This legal strategy creates a legal labyrinth that can be challenging to navigate. It's like trying to pin down a moving target. In essence, these laws turn everyday people into the gatekeepers of enforcement, and that complicates the legal landscape. The outcome of legal challenges becomes less predictable, and it adds layers of complexity to what would otherwise be straightforward legal disputes. So, there you have it, a common thread between Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act and Texas's SB 8. They both put the power of enforcement into the hands of private citizens. It's a unique approach that has sparked considerable debate and raised questions about the nature of law enforcement and legal challenges. The Supreme Court's involvement in the case. The Supreme Court's role in the legal battle surrounding Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act is like a spotlight suddenly shining on a small-town theater production. It's brought a heightened level of scrutiny and significance to a case that was still in the middle stages of legal wrangling. The fact that the highest court in the land decided to get involved underscores the importance of this case, not just for the Show Me state, but for constitutional and Second Amendment issues across the nation. The Supreme Court is the ultimate authority when it comes to interpreting the Constitution, and its decisions can shape the legal landscape for years to come. What's particularly intriguing is that the Supreme Court typically prefers to steer clear of cases that are in the middle of the litigation process. It's like a referee in a game. They usually wait until the final whistle to make a decision.
Weapons ban is constitutional. So we know dangerous and unusual weapons are outside the scope altogether.
Figures. And this is something that we should celebrate, that today's gun owner is looking a little bit less like me and more like the rest of America.
Changed so significantly since 1791.
So yes, just a bit, right? So dangerous.
Just a bit.
Uphold and defend the Constitution, and he's calling me and my industry, which provides the law enforcement and the military their
finds that reasoning persuasive. The things like analogies to regulations of Bowie knives and billy clubs.
But in this case, the Supreme Court made an exception. They extended their hand into the ongoing legal bout, indicating that they saw something extraordinary at play. The fact that the court decided to wade into the fray during the case's middle stages signals that they recognize the case's potential to set a precedent, not just in Missouri, but on a national scale. It's like they saw the spark that could ignite a legal wildfire, and they wanted to get in on the action. The Supreme Court's involvement is a significant moment for those on both sides of the Second Amendment debate. It's a bit like a heavyweight bout, where the outcome could have far-reaching consequences for how states interpret and protect their Second Amendment rights. While the case's middle-stage involvement might be unusual, it's also a testament to the uniqueness of the legal issues at hand. It's a clear indicator that the Supreme Court recognizes the importance of addressing the constitutional and Second Amendment questions raised by Missouri's law. In essence, the Supreme Court's involvement in this case is like the turning point in a gripping legal drama. It has elevated the stakes, turning a state-level dispute into a national conversation about the scope of constitutional rights and the role of the states in protecting them. The eyes of the legal world are on this case, and the outcome could leave a lasting mark on how the Second Amendment is understood and applied. Supreme Court's 8-1 decision on the stay application. The Supreme Court's recent 8-1 decision regarding the stay application in the case of Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act reveals a clear division among the justices, creating a legal battleground that's akin to a courtroom drama with multiple plot twists. In this decision, the Supreme Court's justices were far from unanimous, and the 8-1 split illustrates a deep divide within the highest court in the land. It's as if the justices were reading from different scripts, and their interpretations of the legal issues at play diverged significantly. Among the justices, there was one lone voice in favor of granting the stay, and that was Justice Thomas. He stood out as the solitary supporter of Missouri's position. In a legal landscape characterized by its complexity and nuance, Justice Thomas provided a clear and unwavering stance, like a beacon in the legal fog. His support for Missouri's request for a stay was a testament to his consistent legal philosophy, and he wasn't swayed by the prevailing sentiment among his colleagues. The 8-1 decision doesn't just reflect a division among the justices. It also underscores the gravity and complexity of the case. It's like a legal Rubik's Cube that's proving to be a challenge even for the most seasoned legal minds. The justices' differing opinions reveal the intricate web of constitutional and legal issues that the case presents. The fact that this decision came down in a split fashion adds an extra layer of uncertainty to the ongoing legal battle. It's like a jury delivering a verdict where only one juror sees the case in a unique light. In the realm of law, such divisions can lead to further debates and legal battles. Ultimately, the 8-1 decision is a significant moment in the case's journey. It demonstrates that the Supreme Court recognizes the complexity and importance of the legal issues at hand. It's a testament to the nuances and intricacies of constitutional law, and sets the stage for continued legal wrangling that could shape the future of the Second Amendment issues in the U.S. The outcome of this case is far from certain, and the legal drama is sure to continue with more twists and turns ahead. Justice Thomas's dissent on the stay application. The Supreme Court's recent 8-1 decision regarding the stay application in the case of Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act reveals a clear division among the justices, creating a legal battleground that's akin to a courtroom drama with multiple plot twists. In this decision, the Supreme Court's justices were far from unanimous, and the 8-1 split illustrates a deep divide within the highest court in the land. It's as if the justices were reading from different scripts, and their interpretations of the legal issues at play diverged significantly. Among the justices, there was one lone voice in favor of granting the stay, and that was Justice Thomas. He stood out as the solitary supporter of Missouri's position. In a legal landscape characterized by its complexity and nuance, Justice Thomas provided a clear and unwavering stance, like a beacon in the legal fog. His support for Missouri's request for a stay was a testament to his consistent legal philosophy, and he wasn't swayed by the prevailing sentiment among his colleagues.
June of 2021, you changed the department's asylum rules so that it could apply to individuals with significant gang violence.
Most apparent here, a defense of the Second Amendment, which this most certainly is.
Wyme says the Missouri law exposes people to greater harm by interfering with the federal government's ability to enforce firearms regulations.
Ultimately, the 8-1 decision is a significant moment in the case's journey. It demonstrates that the Supreme Court recognizes the complexity and importance of the legal issues at hand. It's a testament to the nuances and intricacies of constitutional law and sets the stage for continued legal wrangling that could shape the future of the Second Amendment issues in the U.S. The outcome of this case is far from certain, and the legal drama is sure to continue with more twists and turns ahead.
I want to be clear, this wasn't based on violence. This is based on threats specifically to individuals, on gangs.
We can expect in the future that more people will be carrying handguns.
Types of disputes that would be settled by people yelling at each other, maybe engaging in a fist fight, are being settled with guns.
Because people buy hundreds of guns legally and then they sell them illegally.
Missouri's response and fast-tracking of the case. Missouri didn't waste any time after the Supreme Court's denial of their stay request for the Second Amendment Preservation Act. It was like a legal race car revving its engine, ready to speed into the next stage of the legal battle. Their response was swift and strategic. Missouri promptly filed for expedited review in the Eighth Circuit, seeking to fast-track the case. It was a bit like saying, "We're not hitting the brakes, we're accelerating into the next curve." They made it clear that they weren't backing down, and they wanted a speedy resolution. Their argument was simple but compelling. They contended that the Supreme Court's denial of the stay had changed the legal landscape. It was like a sudden gust of wind, shifting the direction of a sailboat. Missouri believed that this change warranted an expedited resolution of the case in the Eighth Circuit. In their view, time was of the essence. It was like a ticking clock in a high-stakes game. They wanted to get this legal battle over and done with as quickly as possible. Their move to fast-track the case was a bold one, reflecting their determination to see this through to the end.
Conventional wisdom was we would never get any Republicans to support gun legislation, period.
Are ones where, in fact, it's most likely that they should be bringing the highest and mandatory minimum.
Respect of the Second Amendment that took place.
But many of you guys might believe. I don't believe that only Democrats pass bad legislation. We've messed up some things ourselves.
The legal back and forth in this case has been like a roller coaster ride, with twists and turns at every corner. Missouri's decision to expedite the case is yet another twist in this ongoing legal saga. It shows that they're not content to sit back and wait. They're eager to move forward and seek a final resolution to this contentious issue. So, there you have it, Missouri's response to the Supreme Court's denial of the stay. It's a testament to their commitment to the case and their desire to see it through to a speedy conclusion. The legal drama continues, and the outcome remains uncertain, but one thing's for sure, Missouri isn't backing down. Potential implications for Second Amendment rights. The ongoing legal battle over Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act has the potential to send ripples throughout the nation and significantly impact the landscape of Second Amendment rights. It's like a stone thrown into a calm pond, with far-reaching implications for the interpretation and enforcement of these crucial rights in various states. The outcome of this case isn't just about Missouri, it's about the broader conversation surrounding the Second Amendment. Depending on the final ruling, it could set a precedent that resonates far beyond the show-me state. It's like a legal beacon, casting light on the path that other states might follow in defining and protecting Second Amendment rights. If the Missouri law is upheld, it could embolden other states to take similar actions. It might inspire them to craft their own interpretations of the Second Amendment, defining the scope of these rights in a way that aligns with their own beliefs. It's like a domino effect in the world of constitutional rights. Conversely, if the law is struck down, it might deter other states from pursuing similar measures. It could be a cautionary tale, warning them about the potential legal hurdles and challenges they may face. It's like a road sign indicating a rocky path ahead.
Details of the law, but folks, listen at home. Here's a quick summary of what this law is doing. It's already allowing.
Are demonstrating that blind loyalty to Speaker Dade Phelan is more important than upholding their oath of office.
Might end up being a message amendment because the President of the United States will almost assuredly veto it.
The case's outcome is also likely to influence the ongoing debate about the balance of power between the federal government and individual states when it comes to constitutional rights. It could reshape the legal landscape and the dynamics of how states navigate the relationship with federal law and authority. It's like a tug-of-war over the interpretation and enforcement of the Second Amendment. In a nutshell, the Missouri case has far-reaching implications that extend well beyond the state's borders. It's a legal battleground that could chart the course for how states across the country define and protect Second Amendment rights. The eyes of the nation are on this case, and its final ruling will undoubtedly leave its mark on the ongoing debate about constitutional rights in the United States. That's all for this video, folks. See you next time.